Why'd you read so much?
Look at me and tell me what you see.
Is this a trick?
What you see is a dwarf. My brother has his sword, and I have my mind. And a mind needs books like a sword needs a whetstone. That's why I read so much Jon Snow.
As Tyrion just said, he's buffing up his intellect because the physics skill tree is blocked for him. But unlike him, many have a choice in what to level up. All those who chose the path of the mind, not the sword. Let's delve into all the intricacies of this pick. These people don't know the words, "I don't know." With an incredibly high ego, they don't doubt their abilities. They're so convinced of their rightness that they don't see any reason to prove it to anyone. Although Sherlock Holmes and Yagami Light are still show-offs, they're often called those guys. They're straightforward and direct in communication, not one for pleasantries, much like that proverb about the fisherman. They can sense a person's intellect from the first conversation and respect those similar to themselves. They're not interested in playing games with those they perceive as lower in rank, and often notice things that others might overlook. In the last video, we found out that perseverance is the universal skill for all classes. But if you've decided to focus on intelligence as your main skill, congratulations. Success is on the horizon for you. This is because in today's world, it's very profitable to develop what others don't prioritize. You'll be like investors waiting for a crisis to make money off a collapsed market. Developing intelligence during a global decline in population intelligence sounds like a plan. While people stroke their egos by looking down on those below them, you'll be looking at those above you, trying to surpass them. This will give you a significant advantage over potential rivals, whose main argument sounds like, "Was I supposed to know that?" Not so long ago, about 2 million years back, humans realized that intellect trumps brute force, and leaders, for the most part, choose the class of intellect. If you start moving in this direction now, you could be at the top of the food chain in just about 5 years. So, for those who have decided to take this path, here's what I think you should prioritize. This skill is rare compared to the skill of perseverance. Saying that everyone can master it and apply it easily would be a lie. The main weapon of all mind gamers is critical thinking. So, how does it work? Essentially, it's a system of judgment used for analyzing things and information. With this skill, you can assess events to make objective conclusions later on. That is, the application of this skill is vast. A great example of critical thinking is the anime Death Note. Literally, the first mind game shows how this skill works. With limited information, the character was able to make accurate conclusions, and was the first to discover that Kira can kill from a distance, simply by playing on Light's ego. He also learned that he absolutely needs to know the victim's real name, and most importantly, by broadcasting in a specific region, he figured out that Yagami is in Kanto. Essentially, L, knowing only a little information about Kira, built a chain of reasoning which he began to test and confirm his correctness. But this is anime, and L is a genius. What about our world? An example of how this skill works, in the simplest form, we just make a chain of logical deductions that will lead to an objective answer. Take a look at this video where someone drew Zenitsu and then started painting the background black. That's the first link. A person who has honed their critical thinking skills, like L, can, by observing how well the character is drawn, understand that the artist is a professional. The second link, further, by noticing that he paints on an easel with professional tools, again confirms his professionalism. The third link, the most observant, will also notice that he has previously painted pictures in a similar style and hung them in the background. That makes the fourth link. Like L, remember the details we see right away, and of course, upon seeing the final look of the work, we are fully convinced of the artist's mastery. Consider this fact. We take a chain of 5 links and connect them, and simple analysis was enough for us not to ask a blatantly inappropriate question. But checking the comments, we can see that over 1,000 people are advising him to paint the background black first and then draw. There are only 2 possibilities. Either these are 1,000 plus professional artists gathered under one video, or they think they know better than the master without even analyzing the most superficial aspects. And by opening the responses to this comment, you can see 80 people who understood that the artist clearly knows how the layering of paint works. Out of them, 12 said that he is a professional, and it's not for you to judge him. So, calculating the percentages from the 1,000 people under this video, we can assume that 90% of people play without the skill of critical thinking, while 9.2% of players have indeed developed this skill. The data is approximate. This skill is universal in any field. It's largely developed among players with very high ranks. For it to work well, you need a sort of database in your head, which helps you organize events and maintain a long chain that leads to an answer. And this database is simply erudition. The more events, human creations, and world laws you know, the stronger your critical thinking will be. Thanks to the sub-skill of reflection, you'll be able to provide answers based on precedents that have occurred in our world. And in most cases, it will prove correct because, as Cicero said, history is the teacher of life. Let's go through a small example. Once on our server, a cheater appeared. He could break the game's physics, walked on water, used a bug to turn water into wine. We all know that crafting wine requires more resources than just water. So, the very people from his group, unable to withstand the hate from other groups, kicked him off the server. But the developers resurrected him, and then everyone, realizing he was a favorite, just came to terms with him. There were also similar guys who could split the sea in two, and because the devs allow this particular group to play with cheats, others started to fiercely hate them and branded them as God's chosen ones. Every time you read another comment about the valor of an anime hero, you just recall history and realize that people are creatures for whom survival is the fundamental motivation. Even a small fish grows wings, which sounds impossible to survive in this world, like birds that build nests on cliffs so that predators can't eat their offspring. The same holds true for humans. No one has ever broken the law of evolution. Similarly, nations that want to be removed from the game try their hardest to stay on the server. Nations that invented mathematics, astronomy, medicine, photography, and antibiotics, and people who proved the laws of physics. Over 2,000 years, there hasn't been a single leader, altruist, or psychopath who would sacrifice their family and nation for the sake of saving the world. People ultimately want to live. This example once again proves that people neglect this skill, realizing that one of the smartest and oldest races has been fighting among themselves for 1 million years because of a developer's bug, which can't even be proven. You can take this and use it as an argument for people who praise characters who thought to stop evil by eliminating all villains or wiping out their own clan. Simple examples from life can show that the concept doesn't work, no matter how good it sounds on paper. This comparison can always be made. If you strip away all the frills of superpowers, other worlds, and perceptions, what remains is the ordinary human mind, which can't invent something that another mind can't perceive. In some cases, it just takes a bit more time. The world is connected. What you see in TV shows and anime has already happened in history. For viewers, a more exaggerated version of power or strength is presented in the form of superpowers, while other worlds are just an illusion of our world with minor adjustments. What doesn't work in our world won't work in the series either. And yes, I wanted to say that there is no such thing as useless information. People who say reading a book is useful, but watching anime is a waste of time, don't understand that information is information. The difference is only in the presentation. If a person cannot comprehend the simple narrative of anime, and in any anime it is simple, even in Monster, Berserk, Death Note, where everything is literally spelled out for the viewers, reading a book won't necessarily make him smarter. A simple example from popular fiction, such as Flowers for Algernon, could be perfectly adapted into a 12-episode anime. It would be a stunning title that, as they say, moves you to tears. The mouse in the anime could be drawn charmingly. The only difference is that reading the book engages the mind more, as you have to visualize the characters' voices and the landscapes, and remember all of the details, because there's no function like in a series that shows what happened in the previous episode. Critical thinking is a skill that unlocks as you level up other, more foundational abilities, such as erudition, which requires knowing a lot of things, analysis to be able to distinguish obvious things, criticism, not to believe everything at once, and think it over to understand whether the information is true or not. It's an overpowered skill, but the gameplay isn't one button, so be vigilant. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to the channel.